Hey everybody, Happy New Year and welcome to 2022. I am so excited for this reading year, but today we are here to talk about my 2021 reading year with my top 10 books that I read in 2021. I have to be honest, this list was darn near impossible to make. I'm very happy with the books that are on this list, but I'm so sad for the ones that didn't make it. But I really cannot wait to share with you the top 10 books that I read in 2021. So let's get started. Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. It's Russell with Ink and Paper Blog. How are you all doing today? I hope you had a fantastic new year. I hope you're safe. I hope you're happy. I hope you're healthy. And of course, I hope you've started your first book of the new year and I hope it's fantastic for you. I am here today to talk about my top 10 reads. Now, if you had told me that the book year would include new releases by Sally Rooney, Brandon Taylor, Jonathan Franzen, Anthony Doran, Colson Whitehead, all authors that I absolutely love, but none of them would make my top 10, I would have called you a fibber. I would have told you that can't possibly be true. But this year was just full of amazing books, and this list has been in flux. It has been so hard to just pick 10. But I feel like every book I'm going to talk about touched me in some way. So it either made me think, made me feel, made me understand something, made me just excited to be a reader. So that is why they made this top 10 list. So get out your pen, your paper, your Goodreads. If I have not convinced you to read these books already, today is the day. We need to make sure your TBR is full of them. If I have already convinced you to read them, let's talk about it in the comments down below. Or if you are so able, please order these books from your local independent bookstore. Let's continue to support them every year, every day that we can and we are able to. Or if you are a library user, make sure your library has a copy on hand for you and for all the other readers that are using the library system. So let's sort of talk about how the list is. So I will say my top 3 books are pretty solid. I feel like those are the 3 that have been on the list the whole time I've been making them. I feel like they are what I would say are my favorite reads of 2021. The rest of the list is full of fantastic books, but the order can sort of switch around. So I'm just going to go in the order that I pulled them from my shelf up to my top 3, and then we'll go from there. So the first book that I want to talk to you about is Heaven by Mieko Kawakami, out from Europa editions, translated from the Japanese by Sam Bett and David Boyd. I don't know that I need to really extrapolate much more on this because I have raved about this book ever since I read it, but this book broke my heart. This book is the story of 2 young people that are dealing with significant emotional, verbal, and physical bullying in their school system. They find each other and they start to create a relationship, but there's always this caution, especially if you've ever been bullied significantly. I think you recognize that when you're trying to create new relationships, you're always worried it's going to turn. This book just resonated a lot with me and my growing up, and I was just amazed at how such a dark, horrific subject could be told in such a beautiful and at times hopeful way that just comes together in just the perfect little story. I can't stop thinking about this book. I know a lot of people have read it and loved it, and I want to make sure that you read it and love it too. So that's Heaven by Mieko Kawakami, out from Europa editions. Again, translated from the Japanese by Sam Bett and David Boyd. We're going to do a couple of translated fictions in this, which is pretty exciting for me because I really had a great translated fiction reading year. But the next book you may not be surprised to see on this list, but it's one of those books that's really stuck with me just for, one, it's a debut, one, for its beauty, and one, for sort of its interesting take and tackling of its subject matter. And that is Brewed by Jackie Polzin, out from Doubleday. This is a story of a woman who is dealing with loss. She's had a loss in her life. And the way that she has sort of filled that void is she has started to raise chickens. And she is like slightly obsessed with the whole entire science of raising chickens. But we learn why and how she is using that to fill the void. And then we find out that her husband has applied for a job across the country and that she won't be able to take her chickens with her. So she's starting to sort of have to deal with a sense of loss again. This book deals with sort of that idea of women as mothers, women as people who, how society can look at women sometimes and the pressure of having to be a mother. I hope I articulated that right. But it also deals with sort of the loss, and this doesn't sort of deal. It deals with the loss and one's place when you think life is headed in one direction and it just, something tragic happens and turns that all around on you. Yeah, told in a single perspective. It's just very poetic in nature. It's beautifully written. It's heart-wrenching, and it is absolutely a perfect little debut. So that's Brewed by Jackie Polzin, out from Doubleday. Okay, I said I was going to do some translated literature. I have talked about this book a couple times because I cannot get it out of my head, and that's 3 O'Clock in the Morning by Gianrico Carofiglio, translated from the Italian by Howard Curtis, out from HarperVia. I read a lot of books this year about like parent-child relationships, and there are a few that just really stuck out to me, and this is one of them. This is the story of a young boy who is diagnosed with epilepsy, and his parents take him to a specialist in Marseille, and he's given medication, and he's told around his 18th birthday to come back, and they'll reassess whether or not he's going to be epileptic for the rest of his life. Well, in that time period, his parents get a divorce, and he sort of becomes distanced from his father. There's a lot of blame, a lot of misunderstanding, but his father is the only one who is available to take him to Marseille when he turns 18. So they get there, and the doctor says, what I want you to do is stay up for 48 hours. And if you don't have an episode in that 48 hours, we'll consider the fact that we feel that you have been cured and you can move forward without medication for epilepsy moving forward. So then it becomes this overnight adventure between a boy and his dad as they get to know each other again, as they have experiences, as they talk through things, as they learn the perspectives of what has been going on in their lives. It is just tender and funny and personable, and it's just so well done. I absolutely loved it. So that's 3 O'Clock in the Morning by Gianrico Carofiglio. This is translated from the Italian by Howard Curtis, I believe. Yep. And out from HarperVia. I absolutely loved it, and I hope if you haven't read it already, you read it soon. Okay. Another debut novel that I absolutely could not get out of my head is Beasts of a Little Land by Juhea Kim, and this is out from Ecco. I am waiting. I bought a signed copy from Powell's, and I'm waiting for it to arrive. This takes place at the beginning of the 1900s. Japan has been occupying Korea, and sort of the historical backdrop is the Korean independence movement from Japan. But our main two characters are a young girl from a very poor family. Her mother sells her very early in her life to a woman who is a courtesan. And originally she goes there thinking she's going to be a maid, but the woman says there's no place for her, but she'll take her on as an apprentice. And this changes that young girl's life. And because of the event, she winds up moving into another courtesan's house in Seoul. The other main character is a young boy from rural Korea. I want to say he was from the north. And his family, his parents have passed, and he has come to Seoul just as a homeless child with nowhere to go. And he winds up getting involved with a group of children, and then things sort of go from there. And this book deals with sort of all of the politics that were going on at the time and how that affects the lives of these two main characters as they grow up. And there's these really interesting things that happen and are connected that sort of bring the whole story together. I just felt that, one, this book taught me a lot historically that I did not know about Korea. Two, it made me care about these two characters and really hope good things would happen for them, and really be heartbroken when things didn't always go their way. And it's so well put together. Like, sometimes you read a debut novel and the author has so many things going on that they never really bring it all to conclusion. Juhea Kim does not do that. The whole book comes to resolution in such a way that you just feel this satisfaction when you're done of having read an amazing novel. So that's Beasts of a Little Land by Juhea Kim, out from Ecco, and you can get your hands on all these books, people. I'm telling you, they're worth your time. This book, the next book, really probably doesn't need me to talk about it at all. You win one of the biggest literary prizes in the world. So people have been talking about your book, and that's The Promise by Damon Galgut, out from Europa here in, this is my second Europa book. Europa, there you go. And this is set in South Africa. Damon Galgut had actually been shortlisted for the Booker Prize twice before. This was his third shortlisting and his first win, so congratulations to him. I sort of always explain this book to people as it's a family story told over the events of 4 funerals in the family. The first funeral is of the mother. She's been ill for a long time, and she makes her husband promise, basically on her deathbed, that he will give the house that their housekeeper, their black housekeeper, who has lived with them for years and years and years, that the house that she lives in will be given to her and become her property. Now, the book takes place pre and post apartheid. So at the time that she makes him make this promise, black men and women in South Africa could not own property. But the youngest daughter hears this promise, and her father does not go through with it, and that shapes the dynamic of the entire family. And it's interesting to see how that broken promise winds up affecting how the other children go on in their lives, how the father is sort of perceived by the youngest daughter, and how that affects who she becomes. It's just one of those books that has this premise that you're like, okay, clever, let's see how it works out, but does it so perfectly that by the end of the book, you realize you've really read something that is monumental and changing. And I could not be happier that this book won the Booker Prize. So that's Damon Galgut's The Promise, out here in the US from Europa. Okay. How we feeling? Are we going to add all these books? I'm talking longer than I normally do about my top 10, but I am passionate about these books. Another book that I have talked about so much on my channel is The Arsonist City by Hala Alyan. I will be blue in the face until everybody reads this book because it is that good. Another family saga. Oh, so good. In this book, we have a Syrian mother and a Lebanese father who leave their countries to come to America and have 3 American children. When the grandfather passes away, the father of the father, he leaves a home in Beirut, a home that's really important to this family, to the father, and the father decides he's going to sell it. The mother's having none of it. And this book turns into a discussion not only about this house and the importance of home and family, but how that has sort of affected all of the children. And then we get flashbacks to the youth of the mother and father in Beirut, in Syria, in Lebanon, and all of the turmoil there and how that affected who they are and the decisions that they made and how they wound up in America. This book is just one of those books that I love when you can sit down with a family and learn about them and get close to them and watch them and see how it all came together. Just very Panchenko vibes for me, just like sort of that wonderful arms around you storytelling that you're just taken care of while you read this book. So that's The Arsonist City by Hala Alyan, and this is out from HMH here in the United States. Okay, this is the last book that's not the top 3, but it could very well have been because I loved it so much. And that is Intimacies by Katie Kitamura. Now, I have to be honest, I tried to read A Separation when it came out. Everyone was talking about it, and it just didn't sit with me. So I was a little nervous getting into Intimacies. This book blew me away. I think I read it in a day. This is a story of a woman who takes a job at The Hague as an interpreter. We learn very quickly that she doesn't really have a sense of place. She doesn't have a place to call home. She doesn't know where to go to if she needs to go somewhere. Her family hasn't provided that. And so she's looking for a sense of home. And she comes here, she starts working, she's very good at her job, and she winds up getting put on a trial for a man who's accused of war crimes, who sort of requests her to be his personal interpreter. And this book deals with the idea of being distanced and disconnected from the person that you are providing a service to, trying not to allow the words you're saying to affect the work you do, and how that sort of can leak into the way that you do your whole entire life. And that distance she has, because she has no sense of home, makes her good at her job, but doesn't make it difficult for her to actually create real relationships. This book is fantastic. I don't know how to explain it any better. All I can say is I absolutely loved it. I will say the audiobook is also fantastic. And it's made me want to go back and say, you were the problem with a separation, not Katie Kitamura, and you need to read it. So absolutely love this book, out from Riverhead, Intimacies by Katie Kitamura, that it did not make the shortlist for the National Book Award. Heartbreaking. Heartbreaking. Okay, so let's talk about my top 3 books of the year, starting with number 3, and that's The Love Songs of W.E.B. Du Bois by Honoree Fanonne Jeffers. I always know that I'm probably mispronouncing her middle name, and I apologize, Honoree, because I'm an absolute fan of yours. But this is out from Harper. I don't know that I need to talk about it too much because I've raved about it, but what I will say is sometimes you read a book, and this is a debut novel. Honoree is actually really well known as a poet. She was shortlisted for the National Book Award as a poet, and you can tell when you read her book, I'm telling you right now. But this is a book like the Arsonist City, where you sit with a family and you learn their entire history. And you learn from the moment that this family starts, when a black man walks into the land of this Indian community, marries into it, and the native community takes him in, and how it goes from there. You learn every moment of this family. And you see in the other sections that are told from a modern perspective, a young woman who is growing up in this family history, how all of the decisions and everything that happened to this family, what it looks like today. And it is expertly done. I think about Ailey, the main character, all the time. I think about how books need to have this oral tradition sort of feel sometimes when they need to tell a story. Another book that was very close to making this list, The Removed by Brandon Hobson, did it also extremely well. Taking culture, taking history, taking lessons, and doing it in such a way that it informs the reader of the people, the history, the past, and the power of where we come from. And this book is all about that, and it is fantastic. It is worth every page of this 800-page book. So that's The Love Songs of W.E.B. Du Bois by Honoree Fanonne Jeffers, out from Harper. I hope I did an okay on that one. I know that I've been trying to explain it. I loved it. So good. Book number 2 on my list is Hell of a Book by Jason Mott. I feel like my top 3 are all books that I love, want you to read, but I have the hardest time talking about. This book is told in 2 sections. One is from a young black boy who is very darkly complected, and even in his community, he is nicknamed and bullied for his skin color. They call him Soot. And he has been told by his parents that he can create the power to become invisible if he just concentrates hard enough. And things happen, and he tries to become invisible because the world comes a-knocking, and the world can be a tough place to live in. The other half of this book is a young black author who is on book tour for a novel he wrote called Hell of a Book. And he starts seeing this kid. He doesn't know who this kid is, but he starts seeing him places. And in the backdrop, there is society, in the world that the book takes place in, a young black boy has been shot and killed by the police. And that is going on in the background. And Jason Mott just brilliantly brings all of that together. He's funny, he's witty, he's poignant. He is making observations that are absolutely real about the world we live in, all within this construct that is so unique, and it's just so powerful. So this book won the National Book Award, and it absolutely is a worthy winner. And it's just a book that I promise you, you'll shut it and you will not stop thinking about it. So, Hell of a Book by Jason Mott. This is out from Dutton. Any guesses on what my top book of the year is going to be? This book, since I've read it, has been my favorite book that I read all year long, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I don't think it's going to change, and that's Zori by Laird Hunt. There is something to be said that this is a Russell book. I love a book about one person told from their perspective. I love a quiet book that just really gives us character, gives us people, gives us emotion. I don't need a lot of plot, so that does not drive me as a reader. And this book has all of this. This is literally the story of Zori. We meet her. She's older. I can't remember exactly her age range. Indiana. She lives on a farm, and we learn about her life. We learn about who she is. We learn about the events in her life that make her who she is. We learn about being lonely. We learn about love. We learn about loss. We learn about trying to find friendship again, making mistakes, being heartbroken, and just we learn about life and how life is just sometimes this line we're on, and there's not much up, there's not much down, but we get through and we do what we got to do. And I just feel this is just like one of those books that just in me fits in the American canon of great books about being an American person. I just felt it resonate with me. I don't know why, other than to say it just is a perfect book for me. And that is Zori by Laird Hunt. It is my top book of the year out from Bloomsbury. It is a fantastic audiobook as well, and I highly, highly, highly recommend it. I can't say that I don't actually highly recommend all of these books. I don't know that I can pick it up, to be honest with you. It's quite a stack and it's quite heavy. Let's see if I can get it up there. There you go. And most of these are backwards because of the way that I stacked them next to me, so I apologize. I want to say thank you to all of you that have traveled this bookish year with me. 2021 has been a phenomenal reading year. I cannot even really quantify how many amazing books I've read. And you've all been on that journey, and I thank you so much. If you are new to my channel and this is the first video, come along for my 2022 journey, because I'm telling you, 2022 is going to be full of amazing books too, and I cannot wait to talk about them with you. So as always, I encourage you to read globally, shop locally, and until next time, I wish you happy reading. Bye everyone.